Most people think retirement readiness comes down to hitting a magic number, $1 million, 2 million, maybe three. But here's what I've seen after years of sitting across the table from people at this exact stage of life. I've met people with 3 million who are terrified to retire, and others with $800,000 saved who retire confidently and never lose a night's sleep over money again. So, what's the difference? It's not the number, it's the math behind the number. And today I'm going to walk you through one simple, one page retirement test that reveals whether you're actually ready to retire. Not based on guesses or general rules of thumb, but based on your specific numbers, one clear framework, and one calculation that tells you the truth. Recently, a couple came to my office, and just to keep things confidential, we'll call them Jack and Jill. They're both 64 years old and want to retire at 66. They had about $1 million saved. They had their house paid off, no major debts, and fortunately, their kids are also off the payroll. On paper, everything looked fine, but they had one question they just couldn't shake. They said, "Chris, do we actually have enough to retire?" And that question, simple as it sounds, is actually the most important question in retirement planning. Because the retirement isn't just about savings, it's about whether your money can generate reliable income for the rest of your life. That's exactly where most people get it wrong. When I help someone figure out if they can truly retire, I don't start with complicated software and a 200-page analysis. I start with something deceptively simple, a one-page financial plan that's broken down into four categories. Those four categories tell the entire story of your financial life and are enough to clearly answer the all-important question that Jack and Jill, and perhaps yourself, would like to answer. So let's take a closer look at one of these one-page plans. The first category would be assets, or what do you own? So think about assets like cash in the bank, your savings, retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, other investment accounts. How about a Roth account? Any annuities or real estate or business interest? Those are the type of accounts that would be listed as your assets. This is your financial engine for retirement. But here's a critical distinction most people miss. Not all assets are created equal. Some are liquid and some are not. And that very difference can be very important in the moment when you need to draw money from your portfolio. Category 2 will be liabilities, or what do you owe? So liabilities range from mortgages to credit cards to car loans to business debt. Ideal world, most folks entering retirement or in retirement would have very low or no debt. But this category still matters because debt directly increases the income that you'll need every single month. The third category will be income, and more specifically in retirement, what is a guaranteed income source? So think about Social Security, pensions, perhaps rental income if you're a real estate investor. Guaranteed income from an annuity can also fit here as far as an income source that will continue to show up regardless of what the markets do. And here's an important point. Most folks will have a Social Security benefit, and right now in 2026, the average benefit amount to about $2,071 per retired worker. For most people, it's meaningful, but it doesn't cover alone your retirement expenses. Which now leads me to the fourth category, which is perhaps one of the most important of the four, which is understanding what you spend. What are your expenses in retirement? So this would include housing, food, travel, healthcare, unfortunately, income taxes, insurance, any other lifestyle expenses. And most folks, after doing this for 20 years, I find underestimate this number. And that's dangerous because the gap between what you spend and the income you have guaranteed coming in determines everything else. Once these four categories are filled in, then there's three specific numbers that tell you whether your retirement will actually work or not. And this first term is called your income gap. So you can take your guaranteed monthly income, you can subtract your monthly expenses. Whatever remains, that shortfall is your monthly income gap. Simple example, if your retirement expenses are $6,000 a month and $3,500 covers that from Social Security, then you have a $2,500 monthly income gap. So that gap must be filled by drawing from your investments. This is one of the most important concepts in retirement planning because your portfolio is no longer just growing, it's now responsible to be your paycheck throughout retirement every single month for the rest of your life. So the second number, the second key term, will be liquid assets. These are the assets that can actually produce that retirement income. These are the assets that allow you to draw dollars out and fund the income gap. These are investment accounts, IRAs, 401ks, your cash, your savings. Now, important here, we don't want to count our house or our car because those don't necessarily generate income. And also, we don't have to sell our house to eat in retirement. So think of liquid assets as the fuel that lasts throughout your retirement. Everything else is important, but this is the power that your engine needs. Now, the third term, or the key figure here for number 3, is understanding your withdrawal rate. This is where we do a little bit of math, all right? But there's two numbers that come together. You can divide your annual income gap by your total liquid assets. That percentage is your withdrawal rate and tells you whether your retirement plan is sustainable for the long term. For example, let's say you have $30,000 per year of gap and you have $750,000 saved for retirement. Divide that into the liquid assets and it puts you at a withdrawal rate of 4%. So what does this actually mean and how does it matter? Well, research has historically suggested that retirees withdrawing around 4 to 4.5% of their portfolio have a strong probability of their assets lasting for at least 30 years into the future. That's the foundation of what many people call the 4% rule. It's not perfect, but it's an incredibly useful starting point. A withdrawal rate of 3% to 4% is a very strong position. Between 4 and 5% is likely okay with careful planning. If you do the math and perhaps you're 6% or above, then in that territory, you may need to actually pay serious attention and do a few things to not miscalculate how this could compound into potential problems down the road. Now, the math isn't just about today. That's why we're thinking of these longer periods of time. It's about longevity. For instance, a male age 65 today is expected to live into his mid-80s. A lady usually lives a couple years longer on average, so a 65-year-old lady is perhaps around age 86. And roughly 1 in 4 people today will live past age 90, which means your retirement may last for likely 30 years or even more. And that's 30 years of withdrawals, healthcare costs, and inflation quietly eroding your purchasing power. This is exactly why withdrawal rate matters so much. A withdrawal strategy that looks sustainable at 65 can quietly become unsustainable by 75 if the early years aren't managed carefully. The goal isn't just to retire, but unfortunately it's to stay retired, to be comfortable, to enjoy life however long it continues. Now here's the good news. If your withdrawal rate is too high right now, that doesn't mean retirement is completely out of reach. It just means you gotta make a small few adjustments, and perhaps there's 4 specific levers you could pull. Lever 1, if you haven't retired yet, perhaps work a little bit longer. Even just 1 or 2 more years can significantly improve your retirement math. You're adding savings, you reduce the number of years your portfolio needs to support, and in many cases, you're also likely going to increase your Social Security benefit since you're going to continue working longer before you draw. Lever 2, most folks don't love going here, but this is to reduce expenses. Sometimes relatively modest adjustments like maybe downsizing of housing, trimming some discretionary expenses, adjusting travel plans, those sort of levers being pulled can provide for more sustainability of your plan over the long term. In lever number 3, we could look at increasing guaranteed income sources. Perhaps this is looking at optimizing your Social Security strategy so you can ensure you're receiving the right amount for the longest period of time. If you have a pension, you need to really evaluate your pension options. And you can also look at other ways to structure your portfolio so it produces income and reduces the pressure long-term on your overall portfolio. Because a larger income floor means a smaller income gap to fill. And lever 4, perhaps improving your retirement investment strategy can make a lot of sense. This means everything from proper asset allocation for this distribution phase, being strategic to manage sequence of returns risk, and building a withdrawal strategy designed to support not just years, but decades of income. So this isn't about accumulation any longer. This is about decumulation and distributions in retirement. So these 4 levers don't all need to be pulled at once. Sometimes one adjustment would be enough, but knowing they exist and understand how they interact is what gives people options instead of anxiety. The reality is that most people get retirement wrong. Retirement readiness isn't one single decision. It's the integration of moving parts that all need to work together. This is Social Security timing, tax strategy, investment income, healthcare planning, and estate planning. When these pieces are evaluated in an isolated format, this is how most people approach them. It can cause lots of gaps in the overall plan. Sometimes small ones, sometimes big ones or expensive ones. But when they're coordinated together, something shifts. The numbers become more clear, the plan becomes more specific, and retirement stops feeling like a leap of faith in something that you can truly do. That's exactly what we help people build at Cornerstone Wealth Planning. In fact, the one-page retirement plan I walked through with you today is one of the first things we create for every new client because it gives us an honest, complete picture before we make any recommendations. So if you're between ages 55 and 70 and you want to see how your own numbers look and how this one-page plan would work out for yourself, click the link in the description below to schedule a conversation with our team. We'll walk through your assets, your income gap, your withdrawal rate together, and show you clearly whether you're on track, what needs attention, and what would be good next steps. No guesswork, no general advice, just a clear picture of where you stand, because retirement shouldn't feel like a guess. It should feel like a plan. When those three numbers, your income gap, your liquid assets, and your withdrawal rate all come together in your favor, you gain something more valuable than money. You gain complete confidence to retire. Click the link in the description below to schedule your call or watch the free video in this link.